So a game that I have been very high on ever since it was first announced was Pokemon Legends Arceus. I thought this game looked really cool because I'm someone who's like a detached Pokemon fan. I don't talk a lot about Pokemon stuff on this channel because I really don't care about Pokemon. It kind of got stagnant to me. You know, all of the games that have come out have always been very, very similar. Sure, there's been offshoot games like new Pokemon Snap, which I enjoyed. Pokemon Go was kind of a cool little diversion, but the mainline games, they always follow the same sort of formula, the same sort of trend. And so because of that, I no longer really care about Pokemon, which is weird because when I was a little kid, like I loved it. When I was like 12, 13 years old, I absolutely loved Pokemon Red. My best friend had Pokemon Blue. We would trade stuff. It was something that we played a lot, but playing those games, you get sort of that nostalgia for it. And when you think of older games, you kind of envision them in your head in a way that's much more grandiose than what the games actually were. Like that's just how it was back in the day. But I feel like Pokemon Legends Arceus, seeing that game for the first time, it was like, okay, wait a minute, shit, this is the Pokemon game I've wanted since I was a little kid. This is how I envisioned Pokemon to look like in the future. Now, yesterday, Nintendo did a deep dive along with, of course, Game Freak into Pokemon Legends Arceus. A 13-minute trailer went up for the game, and they showcased some of the different features of the game, some of the stuff that you're going to be doing in the game, and of course, the actual gameplay itself. And since that trailer went up, there's been a lot of outcry. There's been a lot of bashing about this game. I've seen YouTube friends of mine make videos saying it looks terrible, reactions saying, this looks like crap, even websites such as Forbes writing articles about it. So in today's video, I kind of want to talk about whether or not Pokemon Legends Arceus actually looks really bad. And if it does look really bad, why that is the case. And if it doesn't look really bad, why people are thinking that it looks actually worse than it probably does. So I know that's kind of all over the place, but that's how this video is going to be because, well, it's a Pokemon video, and you can't talk about Pokemon and use Pokemon footage because Nintendo doesn't like it and Game Freak doesn't, the Pokemon company. Jesus Lord, these people are nuts. So I have no idea how this video is going to be edited. I'm going to try to put as much gameplay footage on the screen when talking about the game, obviously, because that's why you're wanting to look at it, but I'll try to do my best and not get copyright claim. But let's just jump into this. So like I said, ever since we saw this game, I've been very, very interested in it. The whole sort of open world mechanic, the whole sort of just go where you want to go, find different sorts of Pokemon and collect them in a different manner. Now, of course, this game is taking place before Pokemon Red and Blue. Yes, my Pokemon knowledge isn't all that great, but I do at least know the basis of the story of this game. So considering that it's happening before those events and before like Pokemon collecting was really a thing, I think it allowed them to be a little bit more creative in terms of how you do everything, because really Pokemon games are pretty linear. Like when you go on a set path structure and that's the way you go, and then maybe you'll get an item to advance a little bit further into an area, kind of a little bit Metroidvania-ish, I guess, but really it's a very linear experience, whereas this game definitely had that, a quote-unquote Breath of the Wild moment where it was just like looking over this landscape and seeing all of these Pokemon just chilling. A lot of people got a Monster Hunter Rise vibe from the game, and I definitely sort of got that as well, as they showed some of the bigger Pokemon creatures that you'll encounter that like try to attack you and you gotta dodge and roll out of the way, the different traversal systems that are in the game, using different Pokemon to get to an area faster, or using them to go across water and stuff like that. It looked just fun. And like that's what I've wanted from a Pokemon game for a long time, is just bringing that sort of fun back into it, that sort of mystery and that exploration that I really feel like the 2D games and the more recent entries in the franchise just haven't really been able to provide for me. I know there's people that love them. If you're one of those people that loves them, that is great. I hope you make a Pokemon-centric YouTube channel and your channel does very, very well. Very well. But like I said, there's been some articles, some videos popping up, and this is one that definitely stuck out to me. Now, this is done by Paul Tassi over at Forbes. I have no beef with Paul. Maybe I've snarked him once or twice on Twitter because maybe he said something weird, but I don't really know him or anything like that. And obviously, this is just his opinion on the game. But you look at this, there's no excuse for Pokemon Legends Arceus looking this bad on the Switch. And he basically just goes through here saying it looks like a GameCube title. We're gonna bring it back to me. I hate when people say that. And a lot of people in the video game industry say things like, oh, this looks like a PS2 game. Oh, this looks like a GameCube game. And it's like, do you remember playing most systems? Do you remember playing those systems with your composite cables on your CRT TV? It wasn't this glorious. See, that's the nostalgia talking. That's the nostalgia talking about that generation of consoles. Yes, a lot of those games still look great because of things like art style and stuff, but just on a pixel per pixel basis, look at an open world game, you know, you're not quite getting that same experience that you're getting with this game. But let's head back into the article here. You know, there's two halves to everything what's going on: bare bones environments, comically low quality textures. Some of this can be blamed on the Switch, and so on and so forth. Basically, Paul is not happy with the graphical style of the game, and he's not the only one. Like I said, even some Nintendo-centric channels I've seen talking about this, saying that this game looks terrible and it doesn't look good, and I'm friends with them. And like I said, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but looking at Pokemon Legends Arceus, it's like, I don't know. Maybe you know what I think the problem is? I think the problem is people haven't accepted that Game Freak can't make a game that looks like it belongs in the modern generation. That Town game aside, because really Town was just like a very small experience. There wasn't a lot of stuff going on. It was pretty much just flat HD textures. But Game Freak hasn't really been around in the HD era as far as their games are concerned. When you look at all the hardware that they've worked on forever, like they went from the 3DS to the Nintendo Switch. Like, that's a sizable jump in terms of what you're doing. That's a sizable jump in terms of how you are creating games. And I know Game Freak makes a ton of money, and I'm not giving them a pass for making a game look in this style, but I feel like this could have been a lot worse. I feel like this could have been a lot worse because Game Freak has never been known for their graphics. Yes, that's something that needs to be addressed. Yes, that's something that should probably be brought to the forefront and to their attention, that, hey, people like pretty looking games, but they also like good gameplay. And when you look at how Game Freak is based out of, they're a Japanese market. The Japanese market is very handheld orientated. The Japanese market, honestly, I wouldn't give it a complete blanket statement or anything like that, but I feel like they just don't necessarily care all that much about graphics. They prefer the gameplay side of things. And I think most people are like that at the end of the day, because I would rather play an ugly game that plays good than a pretty game that plays like shit, because that's just how, you know, video games work. But I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what people expected from this game. You know, do I think this is one of the best looking games on the Switch? Like no, because people have been comparing it to Monster Hunter Rise, and obviously Monster Hunter Rise is a glorious looking game running on the RE engine, where this is definitely not that good in terms of visual fidelity, in terms of quality textures, in terms of what's going on in the environment. But I don't inherently think it's bad. Like, it doesn't look bad to me. Yes, maybe it's a little bit bland in some areas, but it seems like the frame rate is pretty consistent. Yeah, there's some low resolution textures here, but this is a 3D sort of open world experience that Game Freak has never done before. The best looking game up until this point is New Pokemon Snap, done by Bandai Namco. Bandai Namco made the graphics for that game. Game Freak did not make the graphics for that game. So they're not known as a company who does a lot of really beautiful graphics. You know, they're not known as a graphical powerhouse or anything like that. Maybe they could have, you know, had a studio come in and help them with their project, but then, you know, it kind of wouldn't be their project anymore. I just think it's very weird that this is the game that a lot of people seem to be like drawing the line in the sand with, because the first time I saw this game, you can go back, I was very positive about it. I thought it looked pretty decent for what they're trying to convey with this game, and I still feel that way now. The more footage I've seen from this game, the more excited I've honestly gotten for it. I'm looking at the gameplay things that you'll be able to do. I'm looking at the different types of Pokemon you'll encounter and how this world actually is. And, you know, at the end of the day, we've seen roughly 15 minutes of this game. You know, we've seen what we've seen what Game Freak wants us to see. Does that mean that there's not going to be anything else to it? I mean, there's people that thought Breath of the Wild looked very barren, you know, in all of the gameplay footage that we saw from it. And then when you got the game, it was a completely different thing. Now, I'm not putting it on a Breath of the Wild pedestal or anything like that, but I feel like a lot of this outrage is being done for one main reason. I mean, it's Pokemon. You know, Pokemon is always a hot topic. There are channels that are completely dedicated to Pokemon, and they make millions and millions of dollars, and I sit there looking at them and I'm like, well, maybe I should, like Pokemon a little bit more. Maybe I should, brush up on the Poke universe and become a Pokemon channel, because Jesus Christ, these people are making money. But Pokemon will generate you hits. Pokemon will generate you clicks, because people are always interested in what the next thing from Game Freak is. Game Freak is a studio that probably churns out more games than they need to, but because of the fact that they churn out so many games, maybe they don't have time to tinker with the hardware. I think this game looks a million times better than what we saw from Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which to me was just, a spruced up version of those original games, but still, look, it was that cheaper art style that they charged $60 for. That's a whole nother thing. People are hung up on the $60. This doesn't look like a $60 game. Damn it, I know what a $60 game looks like. Okay, so this doesn't look like a $60 game. This large, sprawling, 3D open world area, but Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, those look like $60 games to you? Because that just blows me away. I think a lot of it is just discussion, though. There's no malintent with this or anything like that, because this game's gonna sell ridiculously well, I feel. This is the game that I am buying on day one. Like, I'm very excited for this game. I'm very excited for the gameplay mechanics. I'm glad it's not a traditional Pokemon game in terms of visuals. I'm glad it's not a traditional Pokemon game in terms of the gameplay, because I feel like that really opens things up. But as far as this game looking like trash and looking like a GameCube and a PS2 title, like, that's just that revisionist history bullshit that so many people use as an analogy, but it's not an analogy, because it's a hyperbole. Because things, and you could show, and I know there's gonna be people like, oh, look at the screenshot from this game on the PS2 at this right angle with the HD textures running on a PSX emulator. Look, it looks so much better. It's like, okay, like, you're kind of cheating there. I'm not saying this game looks great. I'm not saying this is the best looking Switch game. I think Kirby looks a million times better than this, but does it look horrible? Does it look like trash? Does it look like one of the worst games I've seen on the Switch? No, it looks like a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to play Pokemon Legends Arceus. So people are entitled to their opinion. People are entitled to think that this game looks rough around the edges, that it doesn't look good, and that's fine. You don't have to play it. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun. You don't have to play it though. You could sit in the corner and play your Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, because those that's the thing that blows me away. But I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm just kind of rambling. But yeah, to me, Pokemon Legends Arceus doesn't look bad. Doesn't look great, but it doesn't look bad. It still looks like a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a really fun experience for Pokemon fans, especially us older cats, because the older guys and gals and people, we've always wanted a game like this. We've always wanted that open world Pokemon experience, and now we're finally getting a glimpse into it. And I think it's going to be a really fun time and a really fun adventure. Everything I've seen so far, maybe it hasn't impressed me in terms of visual fidelity, but it's impressed me in terms of the gameplay. And really, that's all that matters at the end of the day. If you're so hell-bent on graphics, buy a gaming PC. Buy a gaming PC, because a gaming PC is going to give you better with visual fidelity than an Xbox Series X and a PlayStation 5 is. But if you want to have fun, I think Pokemon Legends Arceus is going to be that game. So let me know what you think of this game in the comments section down below. Am I crazy? Do I need glasses? Does this game look like absolute dog shit? Or do you kind of see where I'm coming from? Because, I mean, not to give them a pass, but Game Freak isn't known for quality graphics, and, like, nothing's ever going to change with that. You going to boycott this game? There's going to be 10 million other freaking people who are gonna buy it. And as always, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of it in the comments section down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that bullshit, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.